Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
It might have been after the game. It might have been in the locker room after the Minnesota Vikings San Francisco 49ers Week 1 ball game. But it was probably somewhere after the third sack of Jimmy Garoppolo that Danielle Hunter later said, as the game goes on, you have to bring pressure on him. You see that he's starting to get scared. As the game goes on, the Minnesota Vikings have Jimmy Garoppolo in their sights, and he has fear in his eyes. And the question becomes, are the San Francisco 49ers ruining Jimmy Garoppolo? And the answer I have for you is, so what if they are? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News where you can watch us while we talk. You can join the conversation, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We're going to talk about whether or not Dak Prescott is the next Cam Newton. We're going to talk about whether or not Matt Patricia has already lost the locker room of the Detroit Lions, but we start with situational success. We start with whether or not a quarterback can be ruined. We start with whether or not the San Francisco 49ers are ruining Jimmy Garoppolo. That's the headline of a Bleacher Report article in the wake of the Vikings' destruction of the 49ers' $137 million leading man. That's the headline. 49ers leading man on road to ruin thanks to bargain bin supporting cast. The argument goes, the 49ers have gone all in on their franchise quarterback, one they've paid handsomely. And what have they done around him? What have they surrounded Jimmy Garoppolo with? The answer is Jerick McKinnon, who's out for the season. Alfred Morris, at age 66, still fumbling. Matt Breida, the only reason I've ever heard of him is because he's on my fantasy team, to my great shame. Marquise Goodwin, who got hurt during the game at receiver. Dante Pettis, Pierre Gasson at age 76. And their biggest weapon of all, tight end, of course, George Kittle. You all knew where that was coming. And if you think Jimmy's weapons are a problem, wait till you dig into his offensive line. In total, when you add up Jimmy Garoppolo's weapons and his offensive line, the amount of money the 49ers are spending around Jimmy is a fraction of what they're spending on Jimmy. And that leads to these questions. Are they ruining Jimmy Garoppolo? And the answer I have for you is no. Probably not. Maybe. Who cares? Because the 49ers have no choice. No teams have a choice. This is an interesting conversation. Can you ruin somebody? Who's been ruined? I've asked several quarterback experts, GMs, high-level executives. I've asked Bill Polian. I've asked Louis Riddick. Can you name me a quarterback who was ruined by his situation, by his early years? The only answer I've ever been given is by Louis Riddick, who said, well, after some contemplation, a little bit of rumination, Louis says, Patrick Ramsey with the Washington Redskins. So in other words, Patrick Ramsey was a talented quarterback that might have worked out, but his situation was so poor that he was ruined by the Redskins. But the truth of the matter is, 9 times out of 10, it's unavoidable. You don't have a choice. I ask you this. If Sam Darnold has nothing around him, if Sam Darnold has the worst supporting cast, and he does, if Sam Darnold has a bad offensive line, and he does that mean the Jets should sit him? I caught it. I got myself. You want to let it sit for a minute? Let it be awkward? Cut it? Run it again on Friday? Does that mean the Jets should sit him? Look at Bubba. He doesn't even know what to do. He's thinking, can you go back and dump it 10 seconds? It was inadvertent.
I know. Yeah, we all kind of reach for it and then just kind of let it go.
What do you do? Huh? What are you going to do? No. What are you going to do? Sit him for how long even? Years? Half a year? 2 years? 1 year? Till it gets better? And that's the point. When does it get better? How long would it take the 49ers to remedy this situation? To build a good offensive line? To surround Jimmy Garoppolo with weapons? How many drafts? How many free agent classes? How many turns do they need to get it right before you would play Jimmy Garoppolo, before you would risk or minimize the risk of ruining him? You don't have a choice. You can't wait 2 years. Life's not fair. Your situation doesn't get to be perfect. Move forward. Survive. And if you have it, thrive. That's not just football. That's life. Nobody gets the perfect situation. Nobody gets it just right. And most times, we don't get a choice. If Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be ruined by his surroundings in San Francisco, then he's going to be ruined. If he's going to be great, then let's get with the getting great. And I ask you anyway, who's had the perfect situation? Who's had the best situations? Who's had bad situations? Troy Aikman was thrown into one of the worst situations in the history of football. That was a Dallas Cowboys team that was literally incapable of winning a game. The only game they won was, I believe, with Steve Walsh quarterbacking it that year after Troy Aikman got hurt. Josh Allen, news breaks this weekend, he's going to be starting. Do you think that's a perfect situation in Buffalo? As I laid out, Sam Darnold didn't get a choice, and Sam Darnold doesn't have a perfect situation in New York. The only guys I can come up with that have the ideal situation are Carson Wentz and, to a lesser extent, Dak Prescott. Good offensive lines. In Philadelphia, good weapons. Time to stand up and time to get the ball out to people that can do something with it. But most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you don't have it. You don't get it. You can't wait on it. Life's not fair. Just move forward. You don't have a choice. The San Francisco 49ers don't have a choice. This is Jimmy Garoppolo's team. This is his moment. No matter how good or how bad it is, he needs to getting great. That's my opening take, brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care, keeping cars running newer, longer, whatever you drive a Firestone. Is there some other situation, Cerruti? Is there some other situation, Nuno, that I can look at and say, you know what? That's a shame. That would have worked out. David Carr? If he'd had a better offensive line, better coaching staff, is there some other way to engineer this? The argument isn't that the 49ers shouldn't do their best to surround him with something good, but most of the time, you don't have time to wait, so you don't have a choice.
How about Alex Smith?
With that same organization?
It was one of the worst teams I've ever seen when he got drafted to. They were 2-14 the year before. They had no offensive line and no weapons.
And what did Alex Smith do?
Got crushed. I think he threw 1 touchdown and 11 picks his first year.
And what did he do eventually?
Got benched.
And then survived.
Once Jim Harbaugh came along.
And then thrived.
Now he's making bank.
That's the way life goes. That's my opening take, brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care, keeping cars running newer, longer, whatever you drive a Firestone. Coming up, Jerry Jones compared Dak Prescott to 2 quarterbacks, and everyone is crushing Jerry Jones today. But you know what? He's not wrong. Next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for The Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Man, this is an example of, I don't know if it's just media or if it's everybody making something out of nothing. What was the internal email going around here at ESPN today? Was it essentially the subject line, "In your face, Will," or something like that? And it was from one of our seemingly multitude of Eagles fans that populate the ESPN radio department. And it was a clip of Landon Collins. Did I characterize that correctly, Bubba? Face, Will?
That's pretty much it, yeah. That sums it up.
And it was off of Landon Collins prior to the New York Giants-Dallas Cowboys game this coming Sunday night, saying this about Dak Prescott.
How much, I mean, there's no Witten, right? There's no Dez. How much does that, as a defense, make you focus? Okay, now we really have to stop Zeke. Like, that's the guy that we need to sort of focus on.
Honestly, it's just like you say, we just really got to focus on stopping Zeke, making sure that every run gap, we playing our gap assignments, making sure we close the air out of their offensive running game. If we do that, put the ball into Dak hands, I think we have a better shot at winning.
Ooh. So, burn. Sick, burn. Put that into Dak's hands and we have a better shot at winning. That is not an insult. Why is that a thing? Why is that why is that trash talk? Why is that in my face? Why is that face, Will?
Caption was actually I'm staring at you, Will Cain.
No, there it is. I'm staring at you, Will Cain. From Uranaga.
People just like to stir, to use your word, bleep up.
I think he's trying to say, hey, Dak isn't as good as you think he is.
All right.
And other people know that.
You know what that means? It's time for Straight Talk. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Jerry Jones, speaking after the Cowboys lost to the Carolina Panthers, said the following about Dak Prescott. What do you think? Was that close too?
I don't think it was that close, but
It's 2 segments.
it was the wrong name, but
What name did I use? Say it.
I'm not saying it again.
Richard.
Richard Prescott. He said the following about Richard Prescott and what he thought about Sam Darnold and whether or not he should sit in New York. Now, he said this. He said, I think we have a dimension with Dak, with him being able to run the ball. You saw what Cam Newton does with that. Norv Turner, who is as traditional a play caller as you can ever imagine, was doing a great job using Cam. We've got a quarterback, meaning Richard Prescott, that is somewhere between Jared Goff and Cam Newton. He can do some of what both of those guys do. You're going to see it. Now, to that comparison, to the comparison of Cam Newton, everybody with a microphone has absolutely destroyed Jerry Jones, has said this is absurd. Dak Prescott has no Cam Newton. He is no Cam Newton. I knew Cam Newton, sir, and you are no Cam Newton. That's what people from Stephen A. to Damian Woody, to everyone else. I heard Matt Berry and Adnan Vert filling in with Stephen A. for Stephen A. just a moment ago, making the same argument. And here's the thing. Are we really being literal here, folks? Was Jerry Jones saying Dak is Cam? No. He was saying he's a combo of Cam and Jared Goff. And I love it. I think it's spot on. Here's why. First, on the Jared Goff front. I think Jared Goff is schemed to success. He's a good quarterback. He can hit an open receiver. He can move an offense down the field, and that's been proven over the last not 1 but 2 years because you've seen him with a good scheme and without a good scheme. I think Dak Prescott can flourish just like Jared Goff in the perfect scheme. And I think he has an element of Cam Newton to his game. I laid out for everyone earlier this week that Cam Newton and Dak Prescott's stats from the Cowboys-Carolina Panthers game were almost identical in the passing game. But Cam had 58 yards rushing. Does Dak have the ability to rush like Cam, to have a Cam element to his game? And the answer is a resounding yes. Now listen to me. That doesn't mean he runs like Cam. That doesn't mean he's going to rip off runs like Cam. What it means is he has a unique element to his running that only Cam Newton otherwise possesses. And that element is durability. Truthfully, what makes Cam special as a runner is his durability. He's not the electric runner that Michael Vick was. He's not the best running quarterback of all time. What he's great at, what makes Cam special, is that he gets away with it. He runs and does the one thing no other running quarterback has been able to pull off. Stay healthy. Now, Dak's not as big as Cam, but he's big. He's thick. He can survive a hit. I think the element of Cam that Dak possesses is durability. The Cowboys can afford to let Dak scramble, get that 3rd and 7, have it a part of their game plan. They do. You saw it with the 2-point conversion this past weekend. And have Dak survive like Cam. When Cam takes off, by the way, running, what do you think's going to happen? Like, if you root for a team that ever plays Cam Newton, or you're a Carolina Panther fan, what do you feel like is going to happen when Cam takes off? So I'll tell you from my perspective, it's that he's going to rip off about a 15-yard run. It's one of those gut-wrenching plays that just make it seem like we had everything covered up, and there's Cam, and he didn't just get the first down, he got extra. Now, when Michael Vick had the ball, and he took off running, it was white-knuckle, grip your couch, and hope he doesn't score from 70 yards away. It was rip off a 25-yard run and flip field position. I don't think Dak is either of those guys. He's not going to rip off a 25-yard run, certainly not a 75-yard run, and I don't even see him ripping off the 15-yard Cam runs that often. But what he does is rip off a 7-yard run. He converts 3rd and long. He'll get you 5, 6, 7, 8 yards and survive. Stay healthy. Remain your quarterback. That's why Jerry's comparison is so apt. The Cowboys can afford to put that into their game plan, not just in scramble mode, but into their game plan, the way Norv Turner is doing with Cam, and survive and get away with it. And there aren't many guys that you can do that with. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, what's up with the Bill Belichick coaching tree? We talked about that yesterday, but it looks like Matt Patricia could absolutely be losing it after 1 week, losing the locker room in Detroit. We'll ask former Patriot, former Belichick guy, Tedy Bruschi, next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. Some of my favorite conversations are the ones right before we come on the air. Whenever a guest walks in, John Fox yesterday coming in, talking about Copenhagen, talking about giving up dipping and why he carries a nicotine tablet. Yeah. Yeah, and he takes a mint out every time he's on the show. I'm like, what's with the mint, because he saves it, too. I'm like, crunch the mint, swallow it.
No, you got that little
it's a nicotine
thing
tab.
that you need. Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a nicotine tab because he's kicking Copenhagen.
Oh, okay, whoa.
The voice you hear there is three-time Super Bowl champion and ESPN NFL analyst Tedy Bruschi in studio. Give me the Straight Talk.
Bro?
Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. So, Tedy, which what I love about him, he's like, where the hell were you in 2005? But I'm sitting here listening to him talk, and I guess I just missed it that Tedy had a stroke in 2005 and I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Did you guys know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, of course.
Yeah.
I don't, what do you want me to say?
Yeah, almost ended my career, man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. What were you in 2005?
Doing a lot of drugs.
Oh my gosh. Is that a question I shouldn't have asked?
Teddy's a fellow stroke guy like me.
Why don't jump me to the punchline? That's where I'm going. I'm hosting this show.
Are you a stroke survivor?
Yes.
Well, mini strokes.
TIAs.
Exactly.
Trans-ischemic attacks.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
He had a stroke, Tedy, on air.
Yeah, let's go.
He was working the board and had a stroke right there.
Huh.
Man at his station.
One survivor to another.
Baseball game, 2012, yep.
All right. Yeah, you never know some of these things, until you start talking about it.
No, because you know what? You think of strokes as like, honestly, an old folks thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why when I was having my stroke, I was like, man, I'm sore from the Pro Bowl. I got numbness down the left side of my body and a severe unexplained headache. So I take a couple of leave and then go back to sleep. And then I wake up in the left field of vision and both my eyes was gone. I could not see to my left. And then my son came in and flashed onto my right side saying good morning, and he startled me. And I looked at my wife. I said, we got to call 911.
Yeah.
And so in the meantime, we were talking to the New England Patriots and saying, what's going on? Teddy's feeling this, Teddy's feeling that. And immediately they were like, get him to Mass Gen, MGH, Mass General Hospital. And then from there, the hole in my heart, the procedure to close the hole, I went into Coach Belichick's office. Just a quick little synopsis here. I went into Coach Belichick's office during the whole process and told him I retired. I actually retired. But then over the course of rehabilitation, when my vision came back, and then I started thinking about, man, maybe I can do this again.
Yeah.
And so throughout that entire process is, to my comeback game, I think I had to start the year on PUP, missed the first 6 games, and then come back. I think it was October 31st versus the Buffalo Bills. And so that was really sort of a Cliff Notes version of a lot of things that I went through and, my wife and I went through a lot of, and since then sort of being there for as many stroke survivors as I possibly could. I formed Tedy's team, which is an organization that raises funds and awareness for the American Stroke Association, who I'm in partnership with Tedy's team. And we run races like the Falmouth Road Race, which I recently ran, the Boston Marathon. I've run twice.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stories out there and a lot of people that need groups like Tedy's team to just, for the first time, maybe talk about what you've been through and accomplish something in your life post adversity.
It's a hell of a story, man. I don't want to make you feel bad, but Bubba finished his shift.
I would expect nothing less, my friend.
Yeah, all 9 innings and the post game.
All right, buddy. I'm glad to see you.
That's
doing
3-time
well.
Super Bowl champion and ESPN NFL analyst Tedy Bruschi here in studio. Everybody does this. We do quarterback rankings, who's top 5, who's elite. I don't want to do that. Here's what I ask you.
Right.
Give me the elite. I'm talking about the top linebackers.
The
in
top
the NFL
linebackers
right now.
1-2, I immediately off the top of my head is Luke Kuechly and Bobby Wagner in terms of what they've been for their defenses and how well that, they've been playing for such a long time. Every down off the ball. I'm talking off the ball linebackers. You talk about linebackers also like Khalil Mack, like a Von Miller, those type of guys, 3-4 edge rushers. It's sort of a different world.
I'm thinking the Kuechly model.
Right, the Kuechly model. You're also talking guys like Telvin Smith's a good one in Jacksonville. And really, I've been studying tandems over the offseason, like the best 1-2s. I know Thomas Davis is suspended, but when Tedy comes back, that Kuechly Thomas Davis thing is really special. The Wagner KJ Wright thing is very, very special also. Telvin Smith, Miles Jack is an off-the-line linebacker that's really getting better, and that tandem is also doing well. Young, up and coming. I've always thought Danny Trevathan in Chicago is a good player, and pairing him with Roquan Smith, although Kwiatkowski is a great player also. You know, that entire group in Chicago, I get excited about. If Leonard Floyd can have some production, of course, Mack on the other side, Trevathan, Kwiatkowski, Roquan Smith, that type of group. So I'm looking at groups. I'm looking at, the 1-2 in
You're into
Tampa
this.
Bay.
I love it. I love your
Tampa
passion
Bay
on
also.
this.
Yeah, sure.
Serious.
It's something. I'm watching film of linebackers, like how they work together and how they bracket the ball and pursue as a 1-2 combo. Quan Alexander, Levante David in Tampa Bay. Those type of pairings are ones that
the kid
really
in Buffalo that just got drafted. He had a good first game, right? It's hard to know because the Ravens put up 40-something points, but he had a sack.
Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah.
Tremaine Edmonds, yes. I saw some diagnosis problems with him in the preseason in terms of like him being off the ball linebacker, I think with McDermott there coming from Carolina. Is he my Kuechly? I don't know if he has that type of instincts as a Kuechly, but they're trying him off the ball. I thought he was a little bit slow on his reads, but that's natural. That's natural for him, a young player. I think he's only 19, 20 years old.
He's super young,
Yeah,
right.
super young, so the future is bright for him. You know, the young linebackers also, we talked about Roquan Smith. How's the kid in Dallas going to do, Leighton Vander Esch? You know, that pairing
He hasn't been
also.
on the field enough to know yet. Right. Jalen Smith, I don't know about him either, coming back from his injury. So
those are two questions right there because I love them pairing with Sean Lee, who's a great player when he's healthy. So those type of dynamics I'm looking at all the time.
Tedy Bruschi here on the Will Cain Show. Let me talk to you about something.
You let me talk some linebackers. That was nice. I
love
appreciate
it.
that.
Man, you were into it. I saw it in your whole demeanor.
Yeah.
What other position groups you get fired up about? I'm kidding.
I was about to talk about edge rushers.
Next time.
All right.
Because
sure.
I do want to do this with you today because it's in your wheelhouse and it's in the news. Let's do this two ways. First, is it real? Do you think Matt Patricia is already risking losing that locker room this early in the game?
No, absolutely not. After what he's developed with his team from the off season through the preseason, and so you go out there in week one. Now remember that the offense of the Detroit Lions, I believe, is the same. Jim Bob Cooter's there. He's been there. They've been keeping things consistent. I mean, a lot of it, you got to look to Matt Stafford and the offense to do their part, while naturally the development's going to be going on the defensive side of the ball. But as the things that I hear about them talking about it being too hard or him being too hard on them, it's like, man, you got to wake up, fellas.
Yeah, but Tedy, you know what it sounds like, honestly? And this is the bigger question here that you can answer as Belichick disciples. It sounds like Mangini with the Jets, and Mangini's talked about this. He said, I tried to be Bill. I tried to be a hard ass. I tried to be tough. And the truth is, it sounds like Bill in Cleveland, where the team kind of turned against him. And being tough and mean, I'm with you, but it's got to kind of be paired with success almost.
Yeah, knowing Matt Patricia the way I know him, and I know him pretty well, I'll say this: he isn't, and he wouldn't attempt to copycat certain defensive principles, certain of the ways that he would try to implement certain schemes, absolutely, but he does it in his own way. I was there with Matt Patricia when he was a positional coach, and I got only Matty P. You know, that's what we called him. I think that he is an individual in his own right, and he is
trying to be Bill.
He is not trying to be a clone. Josh McDaniels in Denver went there probably a little bit too hard from what I heard. I mean, I haven't talked to any players out of Detroit yet. I am talking about my personal experience with Matt Patricia, that he is in there being Matt Patricia. I would guarantee that for right now, and I think that they'll get over this and end up being more positive and getting a victory out of there, especially the way they see their head coach.
All right, next time, edge rushers.
Let's go. Yes.
Okay? I want the same passion, the same top lists.
Yes, sir.
And another Tedy story.
I got it all right. I'll have one ready for you.
We've done pickleball and strokes.
That's right.
So I need a new one next week.
Big part of my life, those two things.
All right, it's Tedy Bruschi here on the Will Cain Show. Coming up, we have a diagnosis on Aaron Rodgers' injury. How about that? We'll get into it next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We have an update on the injury news with Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. This from our Packers reporter Rob Demovsky. Aaron Rodgers called his injury a sprained knee today. He said he didn't take any pain medications on Sunday night because he doesn't like them. There was a lot of adrenaline, he said, and it's pretty sore the last 3 days. He said he feels a little better every day. He said he does not practice or did not practice at all today and stayed at the stadium for treatment. It's pretty funny he addressed the didn't take pain meds aspect of the knee injury. That's stemming, obviously, from the interview he gave to Michelle Tafoya on NBC after the game, right? I emailed the three of you guys last night with some viral video that's going around with some guys laughing about that interview. And the caption is, they got this dude on a ton of happy pills, right? And they're playing it. And when she gets to like, what was wrong? He's got these glazed eyes and a smile on his face, like that vacant, happy look. And he goes, my knee.
It kind of resembles your eyes.
And the dudes that are recording it, I don't know what this is. They are laughing so hard. What's wrong? My knee. It's hilarious. I don't know where you find it. I don't know where I found it. I just saw it last night somewhere. You got to find that. But I guess that became such a thing, a big enough thing, that Rodgers needed to address it. No, I didn't take happy pills. I wasn't on pain meds. I was just a lot of adrenaline. And it's a sore knee. Head coach of the Packers, Mike McCarthy, addresses whether or not Rodgers will play against the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. Listen.
Based on the medical, based on what went on yesterday and today, he'll be in the rehab group. He's always responded, puts a lot of extra time in. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. But he'll be working in the rehab group today.
When do you think you'll know whether you'll have him?
I would say day by day. I think that's the most important part of it. I think any time a player comes off of a game where he's injured, obviously there's the hope of playing, and so obviously he'll be given the whole week to get ready. So we'll take it day by day, and we'll learn as we go.
All right, day by day. That means nothing. Thank you for that, Coach McCarthy. It does remind me of this quote, which I read to you at the top of this show, the beginning of our hour, which you can get on Apple Podcast, iTunes, and the ESPN app. It is from Danielle Hunter, who is the defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings, who is the team the Green Bay Packers are playing this weekend. This was Hunter talking about Jimmy Garoppolo this past weekend, talking about Jimmy Garoppolo getting ruined, Jimmy Garoppolo getting sacked. Hunter said, as the game goes on, you have to bring pressure on him. You see that he's starting to get scared. Now, the 49ers offensive line is not the Green Bay Packers offensive line. The Packers have two good offensive tackles. They have weapons on the outside that the Niners do not have. But it does raise a question when you're playing one of the best defenses in the NFL. And make no mistake, that's who the Vikings are. Do you risk Aaron Rodgers' knee? Do you risk a sprained knee, a day-to-day condition? Do you put it out there? Do you risk the entire season for one game against the Minnesota Vikings? I'm no doctor, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. And I think the answer must be yes. When people talk like the way the Packers are talking, when Rodgers played like he played last Sunday night in the second half, I fully expect to see Aaron Rodgers play against the Minnesota Vikings. What?
No, he even talked about it. He was hopped up on adrenaline, or whatever you want to call it. My knee.
Sounds doubtful.
No, I'm just like, I get why you'd be able to play in that game, but as a week goes by, that thing stiffens up. It might get worse. It takes more time to heal. He could get, that defensive line is unbelievable. Like,
you wouldn't put him on the field?
I'm just saying, if he's not able to move and protect himself like he normally does, like, that's the most dangerous team to play against.
So you just chalk up the L? I mean, you put DeShone Kizer out there against the Vikings.
It's a loss.
It's a loss. Without a doubt.
It's 1 of 16. Live to fight another day.
Go for it. Hang it out there. Play to win the game. We just had Tedy Bruschi on the show talking about Matt Patricia and the prospect, as many are talking about, of Matt Patricia just 1 week in, well, a training camp and off season, and 1 week in of losing the Detroit Lions, losing that team, losing that locker room. Patricia himself addressed it this week.
Not a lot to be happy about here. I think in general, all of it's just got to be better. Start from the top and work our way down. I don't think there's anything you can say other than, it's all just execution and coaching and all this stuff's got to be better from that standpoint. So had a couple good plays, but a couple good plays isn't going to make a game. It's that consistency that we got to have, play in, play out in order to, step up and just handle those situations and play with good awareness and good execution all the way through.
Not a lot to take from that loss, according to Matt Patricia, but is he running in the red of losing that team? Well, I brought this up with Bruschi. It is fascinating how many guys have failed under Belichick and how many have failed in the same way. Josh McDaniels in Denver, and by his own admission, Eric Mangini with the New York Jets, essentially tried to emulate Bill Belichick in personality, in discipline, in style, and it didn't work. And as I brought up with Tedy, Bill Belichick in Cleveland, that same hard-ass style did not work out. Didn't work the first time around. Didn't work out till you had Tom Brady in the same locker room. Guys don't do well trying to emulate Bill Belichick. Now, we'll see if Matt Patricia's trying to do that. But it seems like unless you have Tom Brady or unless you have some hope of success, just walking in and being the tough guy, being the disciplinarian, being the father figure, doesn't have a great track record. And a lot of people point to Bill O'Brien today, by the way, as another in the long list of failures of Belichick disciples. Is Bill O'Brien really a failure? We talked about this pre-show, 9-7, 2 playoff runs, and with what? Brian Hoyer? Tom Savage? Brock Osweiler? Yes, he has to succeed now with Deshaun Watson, but how is Bill O'Brien with those quarterbacks and 9-7 records of failure? I don't see that at all. Coming up, who's in the top tier of college football programs, and why is Texas, the Texas Longhorns, so far away? That next in the Will Cain Show.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
How do you explain it when you have everything in life? Everything to set yourself up for success. You've got the money, the connections. You've got the right father. You got the right wife. You got the right looks. You got everything you need, and you look at that guy, whoever that guy is, and how do you explain when you go, why did you amount to this? That is the Texas Longhorns. And this is the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. Give me a call, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. I was watching Paul Feinbaum this morning on Get Up, and he was talking about college football and coaching jobs already across the nation 2 weeks in that might be in jeopardy. And he brings up one that's near and dear to my heart. He brings up one that I think presents an absolute conundrum, a mystery for anyone to solve. He brings up the University of Texas. Here's Paul Feinbaum on Get Up.
I don't think he's in danger of getting fired, but he's in danger of losing credibility. That's Tom Herman.
He's talking about Tom Herman.
I don't think he's in danger of getting fired, but he's in danger of losing credibility. That's Tom Herman.
He's talking about Tom Herman, if you didn't know, okay?
Who's Tom Herman?
Make sure you guys know what's going on here.
I don't think he's in danger of getting fired, but he's in danger of losing credibility. That's Tom Herman.
He's the head coach of the University of Texas. That's Tom Herman.
I don't think he's in danger of getting fired, but he's in danger of losing credibility. That's Tom Herman. Tom Herman's at Texas. That's a place that should be good, and they haven't been. And he's lost to Maryland 2 years in a row. He has a critical game this week against an average Southern Cal team. Remember, Tom Herman was Urban Meyer's offensive coordinator when they won the title in 2014. He was the hottest coach in the country, and he has been underwhelming in Austin so far.
Why? I don't understand this. Texas feels like a program that has the resources, has the ability to be Alabama, to be what Ohio State is right now. So why aren't they?
Well, recruiting went okay, but he's got another problem, and I think recruiting is where it starts. Suddenly, Jimbo Fisher is in that state, and Jimbo Fisher is beating him in the state of Texas, and that is a nasty problem for Tom Herman.
With all due respect to Paul, and I would debate him on this on First Take or this show or anywhere, recruiting is not the problem. It's not the problem at the University of Texas. And for that matter, Tom Herman is not the problem. Not right now, not yet. Not 1 year and 2 games into this project. Tom Herman's judgment, the jury on Tom Herman should be out. We'll see. But the mystery of what's wrong with the Texas Longhorns, what's wrong with that program, is one that is absolutely vexing. Year after year, they have at their disposal some of the best recruits in the country. The state of Texas every year is number one in available recruits. And the University of Texas largely gets first pick of those recruits. Texas is one of the wealthiest programs in this entire country, from alumni to facilities. Everything at the University of Texas is top-notch, biggest dollar. They can spend as much as they want on their weight room or their coach. Texas has the brand recognition. Hell, they have their own network. Out there, everywhere else, the SEC is putting a network together. The ACC is launching one a year from now. The Big Ten has a network. Texas has their own network. Texas has everything, and it has amounted to 500 football for almost a decade. Why? How is this possible? This is conversations I can promise you my buddies and guys across that state and fans of college football have over beers on a year-to-year basis now. What's up with the University of Texas? How is this possible? The question that Greeny asks Feinbaum on Get Up is unanswerable. It's a mystery because it's not recruiting, like Feinbaum points out. They're a top 10 recruiting. During the Charlie Strong years, they had a few years they dropped into the 20s maybe or late teens, but they are almost every year top 10, on most years top 5 in recruiting classes. So what is it? Why? What's up, Cerruti?
Isn't it just a quarterback? They haven't had one since Colt McCoy.
Alabama wins without a quarterback. I'm not trying to.
That's not a plan that I feel like you should build around.
But it also, the point is, it doesn't have to be a killer. And Greg McElroy is a good quarterback, and every guy that's walked in there up to Tua has been a good quarterback, but they haven't been world beaters. And the same can be said for Shane Buechele or Sam Ehlinger or Case McCoy. Everybody since Colt McCoy. You can win without a world beater. So why? I mean, I have one answer for you, but it's not going to be satisfactory. It's simply development. It's coaching. From Mac Brown's late years to Charlie Strong's all of his years, they just didn't develop these 5-star and 4-star guys. Didn't develop them. Didn't turn them into the players those guys could be. And that leads me to this. How far away is UT? And who are they striving to be? I think about this way. Before the show, I said there's 5 tiers of college football programs. Okay? Just back of the envelope, having fun here. But I can name for you 5 tiers. There are the contenders. There are the fringe contenders. There are the relevant programs. There are the that's cute programs. And then there's the abyss. Texas is in the abyss. Who are the contenders? That's the 4 or 5 teams that year in, year out you can count on being in the college football playoffs hunt. That is, of course, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. It's Clemson. By the way, how Clemson got into this historically is pretty fascinating in and of itself. Clemson is not a traditional contender category program. Your fringe contenders. This is like Auburn. This is Washington. These are teams that can be, but aren't guaranteed to be in that contender category year in, year out. There's the relevant programs. And by the way, this is probably what Texas is gunning for at this point. This is Michigan, Notre Dame, USC. Haven't been competing for titles for a while now, but in that 12 to 15 range. Sometimes we think they should be higher. We always talk about them. They're relevant, but they're not in the hunt.
Notre Dame?
I think Notre Dame's in that category. Then there's the that's cute category. That's the you're not really going to contend for a title, but you're not bad, and you are always in that 18 to 25 range. That's Oklahoma State, and I understand Oklahoma State had a run in the last couple years, but that's Mississippi State. They're in the that's cute category. And I know I'm being demeaning. Trust me, the team I root for is in the abyss below this. West Virginia, they're in the that's cute category. Is that fair? Here's a question for you. Where's LSU? Which category is LSU in now? Are they in that's cute? Have they risen up back up to relevant? Is Miami a real win? How about Florida State? Is Florida State falling into the abyss like Texas? Where's Florida State? Where is your program? And why did I doubt Kyler Murray? Trevor Matich was on my show last week talking up Kyler Murray, and I said, I'm holding out. Not so sure yet. Kyler Murray lit up UCLA. I covered. The 30 helped. I covered this past weekend, but Kyler Murray was in the zone. He was in the zone against UCLA. In the Zone is brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Let's do this. Let's bring in Trevor Matich. Let's talk a little college football. He can tell me what he thinks about what's wrong with Texas, these college football tiers, and Kyler Murray. Next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for The Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Matich is jumping on the show, and he's brought to you by Goodyear, where you put in the hours, the reps, the heart, nothing can keep you from being blimp-worthy. Goodyear, more driven. Let's talk a little college football, Trevor. Let's start with the question that I find a mystery. The one that guys back in Texas sit over campfires, knock back Coors Lights, and never can answer. What is up with the Texas Longhorns? A decade of mediocrity. How is that possible?
It started, I think, with recruiting that slipped. with trusting relationships with coaches rather than going out and actually getting in front of coaches and players, and recruiting slipped. And then now in the age of social media, it was this perfect storm. I mean, think about for people that were alive in the 80s in the heyday of MTV, Madonna became a massive star because her acts played really well on this new music video channel that needed content. Well, now we're in the era of social media where history is literally just a few minutes long and that's it. So once Texas slipped a little bit, then it became something that the recruits' parents cared about, but that the recruits in their memory basically has been an average team. And they were looking to other teams as the ones with the sex appeal, the ones that could get them to the NFL, the ones where they could compete for national championships, even though Texas just a few years before that was that team. But just a few years is an eternity in the mind of today's kids.
You're absolutely right. Texas's recent glory days was right before the advent of social media. 2005 national title, 2009 in the national title game against Alabama, and Twitter and Facebook was already around. Instagram, that's about 2009, 2010, 2011. But does that mean everybody's fragile in your mind? Like even Alabama's, gold standard status is equally as tenuous because in this day and age, things move that fast.
They do. And Alabama is that way. It wasn't that long ago, well, right before Nick Saban, that Alabama was a mediocre team trying to find its footing. And it's social media is a part of it, but part of it too is, remember the attention span with or without social media of these kids. And what do they want to be? What do recruits want? They want to play. They want to be stars. They want to go to the NFL. And they want to be seen as the best of the best. And if you've been 5 years since you've been that school, it's hard to claw your way back up into that.
Well, talk to me about a program that did that and did that in this fast-moving, attention span deficit disorder, social media age. That's Clemson. You heard me just before you jumped on the show. You were in the control room listening. I laid out, and look, I'm back of the enveloping having fun with this, but how you categorize certain programs in college football to show how far away Texas is from being any one of these categories. Meaning I've said there's contenders, fringe contenders, relevant teams, and that's cute teams. And then there's the abyss. Clemson, honestly, for much of its history was in the, and I know they had a national title, but in the that's cute range. Like a lot of it was 18 ranking, 15, maybe 24 ranking. And now we're looking at Clemson as year in, year out, a contender status. Is that just because of Dabo Swinney?
Yes, but I would say not just that cute. They were in the dumpster fire category.
Really? I'm being kind with it. That's cute.
Yes. Remember that there was a word, Clemsoning. Clemsoning is when you lost your mind, a lesser talented opponent hit you in the mouth and you didn't know what to do and you lost because you just lost your mind. This is Clemsoning, right? And for a long time, Dabo Swinney was just offended by that. Every time anybody said that on the media, he pushed back. But it took a while to push back and to erase that. So it wasn't just, hey, that's a nice, cute team. It was a team with its own word.
A verb.
Futility.
Yeah.
That's right. And when Dabo Swinney was the interim head coach there, the previous coach had left. He was sort of the interim head coach. He actually went to a meeting of the board of trustees, and they wanted to know more about Dabo. Dabo wanted to explain to them what was going on, and they were talking about this board, about how they wanted Clemson football to be more like the Alabamas and the Ohio States. They wanted the people to see Clemson as the Blue Bloods, as the Auburns and the USCs. And Dabo Swinney, as the interim head coach, before he signed his deal as the regular head coach, stopped them. And he said, guys, if that's what you want, then I'm not your coach. Imagine that. He said, I don't want this program to be talked about as being like the Alabamas and the Ohio States. I want the Ohio States and the Alabamas to talk about how they want to be like Clemson. And I think he won the job in their mind
answer right
at
there.
that moment. But that's what he's done. But it's taken a lot of time. And he's done it the right way, but it's something that, talk about clawing your way back, it took years before he built up that pool that allowed him to take one step, then get into second gear, then third and fourth.
Do you think Tom Herman is a guy that can do that at the University of Texas?
I absolutely do. I think at Clemson there was more patience for someone to build it up, but I think Tom Herman is that guy. Do you think he was a good coach at Houston before he came to Texas?
I do.
He was outstanding. And his recruiting classes are outstanding. I've been there with him the last couple of years in the off season, watching how he does his program, talking to his players. And that culture needed to be rebuilt. I mean, deconstructed and rebuilt, and we're only in year 2.
Where would you, and I'm talking to Trevor Matich here on the Will Cain Show, we're talking about where certain colleges are in the pecking order, where they are in these categories, how far Texas has fallen. Another one that's falling, and it's a little more recently than Texas has dropped, but is Florida State. What's up with Florida State?
I think the new head coach for this year, Willie Taggart, is an outstanding coach. He was at South Florida, did a fantastic job, did well in his first year at Oregon, and then left to go to his dream job, Florida State. But I think he misunderstood or he underestimated the nature of the players in that locker room. Over the last couple of years, I've seen Florida State with great talent underperform that talent. I've seen their offensive line, for example, play like they've never played football before in their lives. I've seen Florida State get hit in the mouth and not respond well. And I think that's what he underestimated. If you go back to the Florida State at Louisville game a few years ago, which was Lamar Jackson's coming out party, Florida State actually quit in the third quarter. And if you want to dispute me on that, I'll watch the tape with you and I'll show you Florida State players quitting during a play. And not all of them, but I mean enough that you could, that's what happened for them. And I think that what happened there is that Florida State's players are accustomed to having, or have been accustomed to having success all their lives in everything they do. They're the greatest athlete in youth sports, in AAU basketball, in everything that they do, they win. And man, they're front runners. When they get on top of you, they will wipe the field with you.
But why that should apply to any team that gets blue chip recruits? Why just Florida State?
But when you hit them in the mouth, they don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like.
Yeah, but Trevor, Ohio State, every one of these programs are getting those same kind of guys have won their whole life. Why is Florida State different?
This is what I'm telling you they are.
They are? You can't tell me, yeah.
This is my opinion of what I've seen.
I hear you.
This is one way to explain it. So when Virginia Tech hit them in the mouth.
Yeah.
They wilted. Samford hit them in the mouth. And some of those Florida State players didn't know how to deal with that.
So that's a culture thing, by the way. Your answer to me is that's a culture thing. Florida State and Ohio State are both getting the top blue chip guys who've won their entire lives at everything they've ever done. But one of them's coming out a fighter, and one of them's coming out.
And part of the problem, and it may be a culture thing. Willie Taggart will change that culture. But see, part of it too, you were talking about developing players. I mean, right. the Alabamas and the Ohio States and the Clemsons, they get in the blue chip recruits, but then they develop them into outstanding college football players.
Right.
I think Florida State for a while got into the position of getting in the blue chip recruits and relying on their innate talent to win rather than developing them in ways that they would need to win. Now, I'm not throwing the previous staff under the bus.
Well, is that an indictment of A&M? Is A&M going to be in that same category soon?
I'm not saying that there are a bunch of quitters there, but I'm saying that I've seen a bunch of players on Florida State's team get hit in the mouth and wilt. And Jimbo Fisher is a tough guy. You know, I just think that they've recruited some guys that just didn't know how to deal with the taste of their own blood in their mouth and the feeling of their own teeth flopping around on their tongue because somebody just knocked them in the mouth.
On your tongue?
No, but I've inflicted that on a bunch of people. Don't you think?
There you go. Good stuff as always. It's ESPN's college football analyst Trevor Matich. By the way, the Will Cain Show is brought to you by Allstate, a proud sponsor of College Game Day Tour, which is live this Saturday, where Trevor, Brad Edwards, and Matt Schick will be live from Arlington, Texas, as Ohio State takes on TCU. Allstate, proud sponsor of college football. Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, Will.
Have fun in Texas this weekend. All right, coming up next, what do we have, Rudy? What are we doing? Oh, Le'Veon. Don't expect to see Le'Veon anytime soon. That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app.
So vaping is pretty popular right now. No ash, no odor, no brainer. But sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. So Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing MyBlue. MyBlue gives you all the satisfaction with none of the hassle. Just click and go. With MyBlue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. You have a range of delicious flavors to choose from. Just 20 minutes to charge, and you're set all day. Plus, it comes with a free limited lifetime device warranty called MyCare. Ready to make the switch? Try MyBlue today at MyBlue.com. Not for sale to minors. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
The Pittsburgh Steelers should get used to life without Le'Veon Bell. I can't see one good reason. I can't see one rational, logical explanation for why the Pittsburgh Steelers would see Le'Veon Bell before November. Why they'd see him before Week 11. That is when he has to be back. and anything short of when you have to be back, I don't see anything. Why? Explain it to me. If you're not in now, what would make you come in October? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can help me answer that question, 888-729-3776. The show is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. Visit progressivecommercial.com. Adam Schefter said something fascinating. He disagrees with what I just said. He said there's a chance you could see Le'Veon in the next couple of weeks. Listen to Adam Schefter.
It's an awkward, uncomfortable, difficult situation that they're going to have to navigate through once he does come back. And I think he does come back at some point in time. Probably sooner rather than later would be my guess, reading between all the lines. James Conner could have been Walter Payton yesterday, and he had a great game. It doesn't affect Le'Veon Bell's thinking. I think when you speak to people around the league, there's a sense they believe that he'll be back by the end of the month at some point, whenever that is, and we'll see what he decides to do.
But why? Explain this to me. Le'Veon Bell is not holding out. He's not using his absence as a negotiating tool to get more money from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's holding out as risk minimization. He's holding out for his next team, his next deal. Le'Veon Bell is trying to minimize, A, the wear and tear, but B, more importantly, the opportunity for a catastrophic injury to his knee, his ankle, to any part of his body that compromises his market, compromises the contract he's going to get from the Detroit Lions or the Cleveland Browns or whoever it may be. So if it's worth Le'Veon Bell to skip week 1, and if it's worth it to Le'Veon Bell to skip week 2, and by all accounts now, he is not going to be available. The Pittsburgh Steelers do not have him on their depth chart. They are moving forward with Stephen Ridley and James Conner as their running backs. They are not going to use Le'Veon Bell. If it's worth it to Le'Veon Bell to skip the first 2 weeks, why would he show up in week 6? Why would he show up in October? If he's willing to give up $1 million or $850,000 a week to minimize his risk, I mean, isn't holding out till week 10, sitting out till week 10, the ultimate in minimizing your risk? What's up, Nuno?
But at what point does he hurt his value? Like, I know it's about his next contract, but if he doesn't show up till week 10, like, he's lost almost $1 million every week, and he's not going to make that up in his new contract.
Well, I don't think holding out from week 3, he's already on through 2 weeks, to week 10 minimizes his value to his next team anymore. In fact, I think it increases his value. That team's going to look at less wear and tear, less mileage on Le'Veon Bell. And according to Adam Schefter, to that question, this is not Cerruti's pointed this out. You don't think his agent has looked into this? In fact, you don't think his agent has talked to other teams out there that he knows what potential deals are sitting out there for him? Adam Schefter's saying here, he's not, $850,000 a week, add that up, 10 weeks, he's letting go of $8.5 million. Nothing. It's nothing to Bell. Listen.
If Le'Veon Bell bids goodbye to $4, $5, $6, $7 million this year, what does it matter when you're going to go sign a $70 million contract?
And I would ask you, why? My only question for Adam, and I immensely respect Adam's work, is why stop at $4 or $5 million? Why not go the full 8? Why not go the full 10 weeks? It would make, if Le'Veon Bell comes back in October, it'll make zero sense to me. I don't understand. Why hold out? Why sit out for 3, 4, 5 weeks, but not all 10? By the way, the reason I keep saying 10, 11 is because that's when he'd have to show up to accrue a season to get to free agency. He has to be on the Steelers from week 11 forward to become an unrestricted free agent next year. So that's the max, right, Cerruti?
Yes. If you're the Steelers, too, do you worry about him coming back week 10 or 11 and what that's going to do to your locker room? Like, if it could divide the locker room? If they're playing well and they're looking to win a Super Bowl, let's be honest, this might be one of Ben's last few years he has. Could he be a divisive figure in that locker room that ruins the Super Bowl?
But he already is.
Exactly. That's what. But right now, if he's away, there's no divide. It's us versus him.
So you're saying when he's available and he wants to come back in week 10, the Steelers like, thanks, but no thanks?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't know, man. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
My knee.
I'm just asking questions here. Look, to your point, though, it's already started. Listen to Stephen A. Smith. We've heard Le'Veon Bell's teammates talk in ways we never hear teammates talk about a guy looking for his money. And Stephen A., like so many, are coming down hard on Le'Veon Bell's teammates.
Le'Veon Bell is being incredibly betrayed by the Pittsburgh Steelers as an organization. I'm not talking about GM Kevin Colbert. I'm not talking about Coach Mike Tomlin. I'm talking about the players inside that locker room. I'm talking about the fan base in the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What we're witnessing is an act of betrayal. When you see analysts out there talking about a different narrative, they're getting that from somewhere. And it ain't the coach. And it ain't the GM in this situation. It's them damn players that's supposed to be his boys.
Why do you think they're doing that, Stephen A.?
They're upset that he's not there.
Yeah, but that question Max asks there, that's kind of hard to say. Max asks. Say those two words right back to back. Do it.
Max asks.
It's
Max
hard.
Asks.
Right?
Yeah, can't do it.
It's hard.
I got one.
That question that Max asks, you want to say Max acts. Right there. Why? Man, that is everything to me. Why are they talking this way? I hear Stephen A. I hear other analysts. I hear Tim Hasselbeck, friend of the show, talk about how much of a cardinal sin this is. And I just go back to why. And you want to talk about something that depresses Le'Veon Bell's market value? That would to me. Teammates that talk about Le'Veon Bell that way. What kind of figure he is in the locker room. That's everything right there. And why do we all... After a time, I hear every analyst, Stephen A., everybody else, like if it's fans, ownership, coaching staff, and teammates, how do you find yourself saying Le'Veon Bell's in the right? They're all missing it. But Le'Veon Bell's getting it right? That's what I'm led to believe here? I don't think so. Coming up, Serena Williams is apparently the most untouchable athlete in sports, and tennis umpires want no part of it. Next in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Tennis umpires have apparently had it when it comes to umpiring Serena Williams matches. That in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. You know, I've noticed a funny trend in sports media. I've noticed a funny trend in commentary. It's one that goes like this. Fans should always support players in their pursuit of a contract. Fans should always root for players to get the most money. It's almost Scrooge-ish, Grinch-ish to say, get back in camp. Get out there on the field, Le'Veon. I've seen people ask the question, why do fans always side with ownership and management? What is so pro-management about the sports fan when in every other walk of life, you are there for the little man, there for the underdog? Why in sports do we root for billionaires? Why do we root for GMs? Why do we root for the bottom line? And I think it's such a confused way of viewing what most sports fans feel about players getting their money. Nobody out there that roots for the Pittsburgh Steelers roots for Le'Veon Bell to make less money. I mean, in an abstract way, if Dak Prescott makes less money, the Cowboys can invest in other positions on the field. If Russell Wilson is underpaid, the Seahawks can put together a great defense, and that helps you win a title. Fans root for value because value means you can become rich somewhere else on the field. But fans don't really care who makes what. And it's an odd thing to ask a fan to care if a guy's making $7 million a year versus $12 million a year, or certainly $7 million a year versus $9 million a year. Most fans are out here trying to get a raise from $10 an hour to $15 an hour or $12 an hour, or putting together salaries to cover student loans and the needs of their kids. It's hard to sympathize or root for guys who are bumping up their percentages on their 7-figure contracts. But what they do root for is their team and the success of their team. They don't root for management. Nobody's rooting for fiscal responsibility. Nobody's rooting for Wellington Mara to stay in the 0.1%. All you root for is your team to do well. It's not fans choosing management over labor. It's not them choosing rich guys over individuals. It's just fans rooting for their team to be better, and the Steelers are better with Le'Veon Bell on the field. Tune in tonight for an NL West battle as the D-backs take on the Rockies, presented by Vivid Seats. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. Speaking of twisting conversations, twisting the way situations are read, it's funny what's being done to this news story today. Here's the headline from the Washington Post. Tennis umpires reportedly considering boycotting Serena Williams matches. The story reads like this, that after the way Carlos Ramos, the umpire that was at the center of the storm of Serena Williams' controversy over the weekend, after the way Carlos Ramos was treated, tennis umpires are reluctant to jump back on the court and referee a Serena Williams match. Now, why is that? Does it have anything to do with Serena Williams, who she is? Actually, no. It has to do with how they were treated because of the status Serena Williams has achieved. In other words, why did they become the target? Why did Ramos become the bad guy? And why didn't anybody have his back? The CEO of the Women's Tennis Association, Steve Simon, after the match, during the heart of the controversy, issued a statement in support of Serena. This last Sunday, he said he believes that there should be no difference in the standards of tolerance provided to the emotions expressed by men and women, and he does not believe that tolerance was exhibited last night. The head of the U.S. Tennis Association, President Katrina Adams, said that Williams has been a true champion and an inspiration, that a double standard exists in how male and female players are treated by chair umpires. Quote, "We shouldn't have to carry that extra weight on our back in anything that we do," she said of women's tennis. And that's led to the narrative today where you never hear umps talk about boycotting male players when they twist off on a ref, when they yell at a ref, when they get penalized for bad behavior on the court. You never hear about boycotting John McEnroe. You never hear about boycotting Jimmy Connors. It's only when a black woman does this that you hear about a boycott. The boycott isn't a boycott of Serena Williams as a person. And by the way, there will be no boycott. There's no tennis union, no tennis umpires union. There's no cohesive group, no body over which they decide on some unified action. But the idea of a boycott, the contemplation of a boycott, is not because of who Serena Williams is, but because of how people treat her, meaning she has achieved untouchable status. And they felt unbacked by the entire tennis world when put in a situation that they thought was handled correctly. Of course, the umpires feel like Carlos Ramos did his job. And to see the U.S. Tennis Association, the Women's Tennis Association, all sell them out? Like, well, how can we now do our job impartially with Serena Williams if we can't referee her like we would anybody else? And to make that a conversation, to twist that into an idea that's about race or gender, or why didn't you do it when it was a man? Ask yourself, who's been protected in the same way that Serena Williams has? Who's achieved that untouchable status? Who's ever been the person that would always be backed against the referee in any sport? Don't even limit to tennis. That's the comparison. That's the apple to apple. That's what this is about. Not Serena's race, not her gender, but her absolute unified support from within the world of tennis and the absolute betrayal of the umpires and referees. Has the league figured out Dak Prescott, or is there something else wrong with it?
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, You can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS-ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
I think there are 5 tiers in college football. 5 different categories that your program can fall into. I think there's the contenders. That's teams like Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. There's the fringe contenders, teams like Washington, Auburn. There's the relevant category. That's Michigan, USC. There's the that's cute category. That's Oklahoma State, West Virginia. And then there's the abyss. And that's where the Texas Longhorns are today. Where's your college football program? Give me a call. 888-729-3776. We'll get to that in just a little bit here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. There are certain guys out there commentating on sports. They're not guys like me necessarily with loud voices and big microphones. They're guys burying themselves in game tape, looking at what's actually happening on the field. You would do yourself well. You would be doing yourself a service if you went out there and followed some of these guys on Twitter. I'll give you a few examples. Some of them work here at ESPN. Dan Orlovsky is doing a fascinating, great job of breaking down tape and putting chunks up on Twitter for you to take a look at quarterback play. Pat McAfee, new friend of the show, does it in a very fun way when it comes to punters. And when it comes to your favorite team, I'm sure there are a few guys out there. So, of course, I know who the guys are when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. It's guys like John Owning at the Dallas Morning News. And one of my favorites, Marcus Mosher, who's the host of the Locked On Cowboys podcast. He's a writer now at The Athletic, like everybody else, it seems, these days. And I don't mean that in a way like it's easy to get a job. I mean like they're hiring everybody and doing good work over there. He also writes for Raiders Wire, so he does Cowboys film, he does Raiders film, and he's joining me now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. I should say there's one more guy doing an awesome job at this, and he's also a friend of the show, and he's also an ESPN guy, and that's Jeff Schwartz, who's breaking down offensive line play in 2-minute chunks on Twitter that you got to get your hands on. So when I want to know what's going on, I go to guys like Marcus Mosher. Marcus, great to talk to you in person for the first time. Thanks for jumping on the show.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You bet. So tell me this, man. Jerry Jones says that Dak Prescott can be a combination of Cam Newton and Jared Goff. From what you've seen on tape, his drop back, his accuracy, his anticipation, is that a bad analogy or is that spot on?
I think it's a bad analogy for a couple different reasons. But the first, I'm not a Dak Prescott guy. I just think he's a average quarterback. But I think
it's been good having you on the show, Marcus. We'll talk to you next time when we have a Raiders topic.
Listen. I think he can be a better passer than both Cam and Jared Goff. I don't think those are guys that you would consider top 12 quarterbacks in the league. Cam hasn't been the same player since his MVP season. And Goff has been a guy that has kind of been protected by Gurley and Sean McVay. I actually see more tools from Prescott. I see a guy that can be really accurate and has the mobility. And I'm not sure that's the case for both of those guys at times.
What do you think Dak can be then, man? Listen, I've seen you, maybe it was Bobby Belt, who's another great guy on this stuff, talking about where Dak is on anticipation. He's a see it, throw it guy. I've seen you guys talk about that. He has to see it wide open. I mean, who is that? Like, give me a comparison. Who is that?
Well, here's the thing. There's not many quarterbacks in the league that do throw with anticipation. And that's, your top guys, your Aaron Rodgers, your Tom Brady's, your Drew Brees. That's what makes them special.
Okay, hold on real quick, Marcus. Let me interrupt you because I want to clarify. When you say throw with anticipation, let me make sure I'm on the right page. You're talking about delivering it before receivers even out of his break, right?
Absolutely.
Knowing where he's supposed to be.
But there's also quarterbacks in the league that need to see guys open before they throw. And, there's some really good quarterbacks that are that way. I think of Ben Roethlisberger, who, has a guy like Antonio Brown on the outside who's always creating separation. So that's an easy throw to Brown because he's always open. There's just not a lot of guys that can throw with consistent anticipation. And Prescott's one of those guys that struggles with it. So when you get a quarterback in a system that doesn't scheme guys open, that doesn't have receivers that are going to win 50-50 balls, he's going to struggle, and that's why I'm not surprised that he struggled over the last 9 games. And first 24 games of his career, absolutely fantastic. The running game was helping, play action passes, throwing the ball down the field. In the last 9 games, when the receiving core has dropped off and maybe the offensive line play has decreased, you're starting to see him get exposed a little bit.
Talking to Marcus Mosher here, host of the Locked On Cowboys podcast. He writes for The Athletic and Raiders Wire as well. If I gave you these 3 options, you kind of divided it up in a pie chart or percentages. The problem with the Cowboys offense is option A, offensive line, option B, Dak Prescott, option C, the coaching staff, Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan. How would you divide it up?
See, I would say like 75% goes to the coaching staff because, listen, on Sunday against the Panthers knew exactly what the Cowboys were going to do every single down. Zeke faced 8 men in the box on 53% of his runs. The Cowboys are the most run-heavy team in the NFL. When you are going against a team that knows exactly what you're going to do on every single play, it's going to be hard for the quarterback to succeed. And that's exactly what happened to Dak on Sunday. They were in a lot of second and longs, third and longs, and that's a good Carolina Panthers defense, but you can't put yourself in bad situations on every single third down, and that's what I think the coaching staff did to Dak and the rest of the offense on Sunday.
As much as Dak Prescott, what I'm fascinated talking to you about here is quarterback play. One of the things I notice, and let's talk about it in the context of Dak, but you can broaden it out, is when I see tape, when I see the things you guys put up, the guys I respect putting up tape, one of the things I notice is Dak drops back. He starts in a shotgun often, but when he drops back 3 steps, he doesn't deliver that pass right when he hits his drop back, when he hits the end of his drop back, which you would assume at that moment it should be timed up. Receivers are at the open moment of their route, right? I see Dak hold it after that. And then it turns into seemingly, to me, Aaron Rodgers scramble mode. And he's okay at that, but he's not Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know if that's a scheme design thing or Dak not delivering the ball on time, but what's going on there?
It's Dak not trusting what he's seeing. There was a play, actually the final offense play for the Cowboys where Prescott scrambled outside the pocket and fumbled, game over. Cole Beasley was wide open in the middle of the field, and that was his first read. But for whatever reason, he held onto the ball, didn't trust that Beasley was going to come open, and decided to bail in the play. Whether that's coaching, whether that's him just being cautious, I'm not sure what it is, but you are absolutely right. That's been the problem with Prescott over the last 9 games of his career, is holding the ball too long. I know you referenced it on your show that he's holding the ball over 3 seconds per pass.
It's an eternity, right?
It's a long time. And we know the Cowboys have a pretty good offensive line, but they're not that good anymore. They're not the same offensive line we saw in 2014 when they had stars all the way across it. Without Frederick now, with Connor Williams at left guard, with Lyle Collins at right tackle, he can't afford to hold on to the ball that long. And yes, it's killing the Cowboys offense.
Talking to Marcus Mosher here, host of the Locked On Cowboys podcast, writes for The Athletic. One more question before I let you go. It's not about the Cowboys. It's about another team you cover. Where and what should we think of Derek Carr at this point?
We should think of him as like the 25th or 26th best quarterback in the league. I mean, he hasn't been good in the last 30 games of his career. He's been a guy that doesn't throw the ball down the field. He turns the ball over a lot. He doesn't offer much with his legs. I mean, you should think of him the same way that you think of Andy Dalton.
Wow. That's really, okay, that's really good, man. You're going to be good at this. I'm going to have you more on more.
It hurts to say that, though, right?
It does, yeah. All right, Marcus Mosher, Locked On Cowboys, The Athletic. Hit him up on Twitter. Great stuff, Marcus. Thanks for jumping on with me.
Yeah, anytime, Will.
All right, contender, fringe contender, relevant, that's cute, and the abyss. Where is your college football program? Which category are they in? 888-729-3776. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. It's a great mystery, one that guys have tried to solve over beers and campfires in Texas, and it's a great mystery for that matter in all of college football. How is it that a program with all the money in the world, all the branding in the world, all the fans in the world, and all the facilities in the world, like the Texas Longhorns over the last decade have amounted to, 500. They've fallen into the abyss of college football. Now, I believe, and I talked to Trevor Matich a little bit earlier here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. Both Trevor Matich and I agree Tom Herman will lead Texas out of the abyss. It just may take them longer than Longhorns fans want. But how did Texas fall into the abyss? And where is your college football program? I think you can break it down into 5 categories. First, there's the contenders. And there's not that many teams that over a 3 to 5 year span you can say consistently live in the contender status. That's Bama, Georgia, Ohio State. Then you have the fringe contenders. That's teams that can make a run up in there, sneak up every once in a while, like Washington, like Auburn. Then there's the relevant status, number 3. That's teams that we're going to talk about. And they're going to be good, but when it's all said and done, they're going to end up 12th, 14th. That's Michigan. That's USC. That's Notre Dame. And then there's the that's cute category. Year in, year out, these programs, these coaches, they do pretty well. But it's 3 losses. It's 24th. It's 18th. It's Oklahoma State. It's West Virginia. And everybody else has fallen into the abyss, like Texas. Where is your college football program? 888-729-3776. Let's start with Cam in Pennsylvania. What's up, Cam?
Hey, Will, love the show, man. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Hey, I got Penn State. Here's my reason for fringe contender. They remind me a lot of Clemson when they were just coming on the scene. Fun offense, Taj Boyd, Dabo Sweeney's like a CEO, like Franklin. You know, not a big X's and O's guy. And recruiting's the lifeblood of college football. You get over that blue chip ratio, you start winning some games, man. And I think Penn State's recruiting really, really well. Got a fun quarterback. You're starting to see some more talent on defense. So I think fringe contender and maybe start pushing Ohio State for contender.
I think you're a fan, Cam, and I think you've bumped them up one category too high. I think Penn State is in the relevant category, pushing into the fringe contender category. And I find hope in Penn State. I brought them up in our meeting when we were talking about this before the show. I said, how did Penn State go from where they were to where they are? I feel like it was just a few years ago, Penn State was in the abyss. Penn State was in 500 ball. They were 7-6 multiple years. And they didn't sit there for a decade like Texas. They got right out of that abyss. I think they're relevant and pushing fringe contender status. Ian in North Dakota, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey, Will, thanks for taking my call. It's good to talk to you. Huge fan of yours.
Thank you, man.
I've been an Oregon fan for a while. I would have to say they are somewhat relevant once in a while and cute most of the times with those uniforms. For having a big-time booster like Phil Knight, you would think they would be, relevant or, a contender most of the time. But here, hopefully with the new coach and coming in, we can start making some noise.
What's funny, Ian, I appreciate the call, is Oregon is going the opposite direction of Penn State. They're going the opposite direction of Clemson. Oregon spent years, not just in fringe contender status, but in contender status. Oregon lived there. For how many years, Rudy, was Oregon in the top tier? 3? 5?
Oh, I think more than that. Yeah.
More? Maybe some of those years in the fringe contender status.
Almost all of Chip Kelly and then even some into Mark Helfrich.
Yes. In the contender status. And I think Ian's right. Now, when you look at Oregon today, they're in the that's cute category. If you have a college football coach and you have a program that you root for, it's fascinating to look at the teams that moved up. Penn State moving up from the abyss to relevant. Clemson moving up from that's cute to contender. TCU moving up from the abyss to relevant status, relevant category. TCU is now above that's cute. They lived in that's cute for a while, and they're above that's cute. Shelton from Texas, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey.
Hey.
So talk to me about why you don't have Oklahoma in that top tier category.
I do.
Okay, I didn't hear you mention them.
Yeah, well, I wasn't doing an exhaustive list. I wasn't making sure I got everybody in. But you're right, and it actually wasn't out of hatred, but you're going to make me hate it. Oklahoma, it is hard to say. Oklahoma's in contender status and has been for a while. You got it, Shelton. They are. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Okay, you got it, man. There you go. And by the way, I'm going to tell you honestly, I said this earlier on the show. I said it earlier in the week. I said it a week ago. I didn't believe in Kyler Murray. And in retrospect, this is going to tie in. I doubted Kyler Murray because of his short tenure at A&M. I doubted Kyler Murray going from A&M to Oklahoma and being something different. In retrospect, what I should have doubted was Kevin Sumlin. He burned through 3 quarterbacks, all of whom went on to play somewhere, all of whom went on to be relevant. And now, what is he doing with Khalil Tate at Arizona? Leading them into the abyss. What's up, Nuno?
How long are it's gonna take for you to jump off the Murray bandwagon? Like as long the same amount of time you jumped off the Raptors bandwagon earlier this year?
We need to get like a sound effect for this. What are we gonna do with this? Let me explain to you something about me and my bandwagon takes. I have a daughter.
Yes.
I want to explain to you something. I have a daughter, Nuno. I have a daughter, and I'm out here doing things for her to show her the right way to do things. Don't you come at me with this stuff. I have a daughter. I'm not on the Kyler Murray bandwagon. I am on the no longer Kyler Murray skeptic. I do think you have to do more than UCLA. Who they played the first week? Nobody. Oh, FAU. You got to give me more than FAU and UCLA. But I don't doubt him anymore. I'm not putting him in the Heisman race just yet. Tweet the show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Nothing makes up for your football obsession like a surprise from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order a dozen multicolored roses plus an extra bouquet and a vase for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. I have more sound for you. The Steelers are talking again. They're tired of it. I don't want to talk about Le'Veon Bell anymore. You're going to hear it next in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I have a daughter.
Did you know ADT can design and install a smart home just for you? A new smart home at your service, customized for your lifestyle. ADT's automation even unlocks the front door for friends who arrive at your place early for the game while you're still out getting snacks. Now that's what I call game day service. It's all controlled from the ADT app or the sound of your voice and backed by 24/7 protection. Visit ADT.com/smart to learn more about how ADT can help keep your home safe and smart.
Give me a call, 888-729-3776. Let's talk about Le'Veon Bell and his teammates who are sounding off on him once again. But to just wrap up our college football tiers conversation, one of the reasons this came up today was news is out that Texas A&M is now the most valuable program in college football. The Texas A&M Aggies are, however this is measured by Forbes magazine, revenue, donor, alumni support, facilities. It's revenue and profit as well, gross revenue and profit. Texas has held that title, I believe, since 2014. Texas A&M, for the first time, has come up to number 1 in those rankings. I believe, and so I don't know if you're pulling that up right now, Ohio State, 3rd. This is in gross revenue and in profit. Texas A&M, now number 1. I've asked the question, what's wrong with Texas? Let me just do this really quick. Alan, what's up, Alan? You're on the Will Cain Show.
How's it going, Will?
It's going.
I have a lot of respect for your rational perspective on things, but I think one of the things that has understood today in today's sports, most guys look and say, well, everybody that gets the best recruits are the guys that win. And that's, you look at the transfer rate and the management of the 4- and 5-star guy. I'm on the basketball side, but the culture is pretty much goes from both sides of the business because of the nature of expectations, families, other people around, all the people that are involved in the process. These kids come, so your staff. I think Tom is a solid football coach, but your staff has to be in such a high management mode, hour by hour on a regular basis.
Yeah,
guys will stay committed to understanding that the whole chemistry team thing gets them their end goal.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And I'll tell you this. I talked to Trevor Matich a little bit earlier, and I said, look, everybody, if Florida State has a problem getting punched in the mouth, and that's what Trevor Matich told me, it's not that they're coddled or that these guys, because Trevor said, these guys have won everything they've ever done in their life. They're 4- and 5-star guys, and the first time they get punched in the mouth by Samford, they don't know what to do. I said, but yeah, Ohio State guys do the same thing. But it's that mysterious thing in the end that guys like Herman, Tom Herman, Texas, are trying to change. It's culture. One more. Nick in College Station. You're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Nick?
Hey, Will. How you doing?
I'm good. What's up?
So I'm going to let you know you already mentioned it, but you're not putting 2 and 2 together why Texas isn't doing as well.
All right.
It all goes back to the Longhorn Network. When you have this culture of me all the time, which you get the Longhorn Network, you have the SEC Network, Big Ten Network, I think there's a Pac-12 Network. They share it among the conference. With Texas, all the attention is focused on them all the time. Tom Herman has to give a much longer press conference the day after a game, which Jimbo Fisher doesn't have to do. If you look at other similar programs like FSU and Miami, they'd rather spend money on a turnover chain and a turnover Gucci backpack than put that money toward their program. With Texas, rather than it being on the players and the culture saying, me, look at me, it has to do with the boosters. They're not really into the discipline, the kind of Belichickian system that it takes to be a longtime contender.
I think you got something there, especially with the boosters. I think there's too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to Texas. Too many billionaires telling the Longhorns what to do with their program. For what it's worth, and I'm not, maybe I am just doing it because you're doing it to me. But we'll see how Jimbo works out. We just had Trevor talking about the culture problems at Florida State. And that's under Jimbo. Who wants to go back? Jimbo gets a fresh start at A&M. And the breaking news here that I'm tying this into, honestly, is A&M's now the most valuable program in the country. Here's your rankings. Texas A&M, number 1, $107 million in profit. Texas, number 2, $87 million. Michigan, number 3, $75 million. Alabama, number 4, $59 million in profit. And Ohio State, number 5 in revenue. They actually have more profit than Alabama, but 5 in revenue. Look at Oklahoma coming in 6th. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. Le'Veon Bell's teammates, they're talking once again. They've been asked about Le'Veon Bell's absence. He's not on the depth chart for week 2. He's giving up $850,000 a week to preserve himself for next year. So what does Marquise Pouncey think about that?
How do you think the words last week about Le'Veon were received?
Who's that?
The message about Le'Veon last week, how do you think it was received?
Who's that?
Well, just that there seems to be a lot of opinions about what was said. You know.
Everybody has the right to opinion. It's for the First Amendment.
Who's that? Who's that? That's not just avoiding reporters' questions. That is shade. That is directed at Le'Veon Bell, not the reporter asking the question. How about, let's stay along the offensive line. How about Steelers guard David DeCastro?
I don't know. It's tough. No matter what you say, I feel like this day and age, it gets kind of taken and misconstrued sometimes. And, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because all the guys that are in here are going to play. And that's kind of what I was getting at. You know, it's just kind of tired of saying the same thing over and over again and you know, media kind of beating a dead horse. I mean, he's not here, so what are we going to do? I don't want to talk about it anymore kind of thing, you know?
Well, I hate to do exactly what David said we do, but to parse it, spin it, and beat the dead horse, he did say the guys that want to play. I'm here with the guys that want to play. You asked a little bit earlier, Srudy, like, let's say Le'Veon does the rational thing. And when I say rational, like if you're staying out, if you're not going to play, you're not holding out for a bigger contract. You're holding out to minimize injury risk. So the rational play is don't come back till you have to, which is week 11, which is in November. What kind of locker room will he come back to in week 11? But the truth of the matter is, what kind of locker room is he going to come back to right now? What's the difference? Could it be any worse? I don't know how Pittsburgh Steelers fans or teammates can count on Le'Veon Bell before November. I don't know why he would come back earlier. I can't think of a rational explanation, a reason that he would come back earlier. You can tell me it's $850,000. I can give you that many reasons because that's how many he gets a week. But Adam Schefter points out, please, that's nothing for what Le'Veon's working on right now.
If Le'Veon Bell bids goodbye to $4, $5, $6, $7 million this year, what does it matter when you're going to go sign a $70 million contract?
And I would add that, make it bigger, Adam. $7, $8 million. What does it matter if you're holding out for a $70 million contract or you're preserving yourself, minimizing the risk to your potential for a $70 million contract? Coming up, is Bill O'Brien, the Houston Texans head coach, the problem with Deshaun Watson? One of our analysts thinks so, says, don't listen to your head coach. Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Is Bill O'Brien, Houston Texans head coach, is he another example of failed Bill Belichick disciples? That's coming up in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. But before we get to that, now, I was only partially involved in this conversation. So Bubba's real big on structure.
All of us are.
Now, we're not talking about, like, the lack of chaos. We're not talking about organization. Bubba, you're in on the former clothing brand known as Structure?
Well, no, it started because we were referencing our old friend Travis and his excessive amount of plaid shirts, and someone mentioned they're all Express shirts, and Express is the new version of Structure. When we were younger, Structure was, the main...
Isn't Express a ladies' brand?
No.
No, I mean, maybe it was before. I do kind of know what you're saying. I feel like when we were younger it was, and maybe when they bought a Structure or whatever. So we're just all three of us were reminiscing how, like, when I was in middle school, I wore Structure every day.
I have a vague memory of Structure. What was their bit? What was different about Structure?
It was very structured.
They were like, I feel like Structure was like a little bit better than Old Navy, but like not quite J. Crew, Banana Republic. Like it was in that range. Everything else was bigger back then too. Like your jeans were baggier, your shirts were bigger.
They were really buttoned up.
Why did we wear everything so big? Why did nothing fit?
It'll come back.
You think so?
Yeah, it always does.
Will wearing your clothes backwards like crisscross come back too?
Probably not.
Structure. I do remember being into Structure. We need to find out what happened to Structure. You're telling me it turned up.
It became Express. It became Express.
You don't have to tell me once. Well, I like the brand Structure better. Express is a ladies' brand.
I agree. Structure was great.
And they stopped making things that fit for some other, some guys who are bigger than others.
Some guys.
Who? Structure?
Well, Structure then Express turned into very
So what
Metro.
You're saying is Structure was
Metro,
for you guys and Express was for Travis.
Yeah, exactly.
It went from being a big and tall shop to
No, it's a lady show. No.
You're misconstruing.
I don't even know why he brought that up.
The big and tall thing?
Yeah.
We're not talking about like casual male XL here. It was for everyone.
Look how frustrated Bubba is with Nuno. I don't even know why he brought that up. Casual male. Yeah. Structure. I'm going to go Google what happened to Structure. You guys
We
excited?
know what happened to Structure. Why do you keep saying this?
You guys
What's
excited?
wrong with you?
It turned into a ladies' brand. Hey.
There you go. Exactly.
You guys excited about White Boy Rick?
I don't know a ton about it, but
I'm
McConaughey's in, so
I'm hyped. My boy is hyped.
Nice.
That was good.
I'm not convenient. I got to see White Boy Rick. Matthew McConaughey. White Boy Rick.
What's the premise?
About a white boy named Rick?
And it's a true story. Youngest FBI informant in history. 14 years old in Detroit. White guy grows up in an African-American neighborhood, but also he gets into drug dealing, and I don't know, he's also an informant, and his family, I think McConaughey's his dad. Did you see the way McConaughey's dressed? I'm in. Okay? He's doing he's not doing Pretty Boy McConaughey. He's doing the AIDS movie McConaughey.
Dallas Buyers Club.
Dallas Buyers Club McConaughey.
Talking about like True Detective McConaughey.
I like that McConaughey. Not the Pretty Boy McConaughey. Did you ever see the one where
you don't like the one driving a Lincoln?
Did you ever see the one about Gold? Was it where he's bald
Gold, love
and he's
Gold.
got? I loved Gold.
Yep, great movie.
Also a true story. Also sent me to Wikipedia.
A coworker just texted in, by the way. LOL. Travis does wear a lot of plaid. So yeah,
he does.
He does. Express plaid.
I know how it is though. Everybody makes fun of my relationship with the color blue. Liam constantly calling me out on.
We started this conversation because you got tweeted at by that, what is it, like dude shirt, bro shirt or something?
Oh yeah, the dude shirt.
Yeah,
that blue and pink gingham shirt that every dude has. Every dude has that shirt, and this is an Instagram feed of pictures of just dudes wearing that shirt. And the question is, are you even a dude if you don't have that shirt? Probably not.
Structure would have that shirt.
Whatever happened to Structure?
I think it turned into a ladies' brand. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. I really don't understand coming down hard on Bill O'Brien. This is Ryan Clark, ESPN NFL analyst, talking about Bill O'Brien and Deshaun Watson.
Stop listening to Bill O'Brien. Don't do what he says.
What do you mean?
If Bill O'Brien is telling you to do something, do the opposite.
That's his coach.
Bill O'Brien is the head coach. He's got this perception that he's a quarterback guy. One, all his quarterbacks get hurt, whether it be at Penn State, all the guys that have played in Houston. Deshaun Watson, obviously, was at practice. It was something different. He played with a freeness. He played with a flair, with an exuberance that I can't be stopped. I'm going to make big throws. I'm not going to second guess myself. I'm not going to question what I feel. I watched him question himself on Sunday. I watched him play in the pocket and not want to run, not want to escape. You can't be that guy.
Let's set aside for a moment whether or not Deshaun Watson should start ignoring or doing the opposite of what his head coach tells him to do. Is Bill O'Brien really an example of the failure of the Bill Belichick coaching tree? Everybody's been talking about this recently, whether or not it's because of Matt Patricia's bad first outing as a head coach, but Josh McDaniels in Denver, Eric Mangini with the New York Jets, Romeo Crennel, on and on, Al Groh, Bill Belichick disciples or apprentices who have not gone on to successful professional coaching careers. And Bill O'Brien is often listed, but I'm looking at this. 2014, Bill O'Brien with the Houston Texans, 9-7. 15, 9-7 again, goes to the playoffs, loses his first game in the playoffs. 2016, 9-7 again, goes to the playoffs, wins a playoff game, and then loses in the divisional round. 2017, they fall to 4-12 after Deshaun Watson gets hurt. So 3 years in a row of 9-7, 2 of those in the playoffs. And I ask you, who was he doing it with? Who was he going 9-7 and the playoffs with? Let's look at when he won this first playoff game, when he went 9-7, his quarterbacks were Brock Osweiler and Tom Savage. Are you telling me 9-7 and a playoff win with Brock Osweiler and Tom Savage is underperforming? Let's go back to the previous year. Also went to the playoffs, 9-7. Did that with Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett, TJ Yates, and Brandon Weeden starting games. Is that underperforming? I mean, I think there's a case to be made that Bill O'Brien is doing an amazing job winning 9 games and making it to the playoffs with these quarterbacks. His first year, he went 9-7. He did that with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Case Keenum. That's Ryan Fitzpatrick for 12 games, Case Keenum for 2 games. That was his best quarterback class.
Okay, but he's also the guy that gave Brock Osweiler $72 million and then got a get out of jail free card from the Browns.
Honestly, is it him or the GM that gave Brock Osweiler?
I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't have signed off on that.
You're right. He gets an indictment for picking the groceries, but the cooking of the food you bring into the kitchen, you got to admit he's doing a decent job with. 9-7 with those quarterbacks is against all odds.
He also inherited an epic defense, didn't he?
That's true. That's true.
He's supposed to be the offensive quarterback guru.
Dude, with Brian Hoyer?
Just saying.
With Ryan Mallett? You're not just saying. What are you saying?
I'm just saying.
When we get our whiteboard, we're going to put up all Cerruti's colloquialisms that mean nothing. It's not a good look. Cool. I'm just saying. I'm just asking questions.